Hi everyone, it is a dreary day in early January in Washington, D.C. And as you can see, I have a lot of plants out here under frost protection. And wintertime, and especially late December, early January, might seem like a quiet time from a gardening perspective, but it's actually quite busy because we have to get ahead of the upcoming season, and there's so many seeds to start and things to think about. So it is quite a busy time actually. So I'd love to take you for a little tour of what's going on in the garden out here to get ahead of the upcoming 2026 season. Before we take a look at the plants, let's talk a little bit about protection. I protect all my beds with 2 layers. So I have a layer of some UV rated sort of thicker plastic, as well as frost fabric that I just picked up on Amazon to help additionally insulate the plants. In addition to that protection, I also have Christmas lights. These are incandescent outdoor rated Christmas lights, and what they do is add just a few degrees of warmth. So when it is really cold outside, just having that little bit of extra heat has been helpful to help the plants through really cold spells, and it's done a great job of doing that. And in addition, it's sort of festive. In this bed, I have some beets as well as some radishes that are kind of intermingled, and everything is growing well. However, it grows a lot more slowly than it does during warmer months, partly because of the temperature, but also definitely because of the sun being substantially weaker than it is during the warmer months. I am continuing to sow seeds as well. These are some radish seeds that I popped in, and root vegetables generally are quite cold tolerant: radishes, beets, carrots, etc. So they are good candidates for a winter garden. These larger plants are guylon, so this is Chinese broccoli, and they also are quite cold tolerant and doing really well under this frost fabric. Over on this side, I have mostly broccoli. This one is at a perfect stage for harvesting. Now, beyond this beautiful color, one of the things I really love about this particular broccoli is that it grows a lot of side shoots. And even when you harvest these side shoots, they have more little babies coming in over here. So as long as you leave those will eventually grow out as well. So there's a lot of extended harvest time with this particular varietal of broccoli. These Korean radish I planted in the fall and are growing nicely. This is a kind of radish that gets very, very large. And again, I'm not sure when they'll be done. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on them. But hopefully they should size up a bit more because they normally get quite large. In this bed, I have some Swiss chard, and this is chard that I started in the springtime and just kept it going. I was thinking about pulling this out, but it's still continuing to do so well that I just didn't have the heart to do it. Such a beautiful color, especially in the winter. It's so nice to see these pops of color. In the back there, I have some leeks that have been growing for quite a few months. I'm not sure how long I'll leave them in there. I could probably pull them if I wanted to, but I'm hoping to see if they'll size up some more. Through the summer, they were kind of shaded out. In this bed, I have some cauliflower. Now, these cauliflowers were actually rescued. I spilled some seed on the ground and noticed a bunch of these little seedlings popping up. And instead of just throwing them out, I got curious to see if I could get them to grow out. So these were transplanted from the random place I had spilled the seed. Now they're growing very, very slowly, but they seem relatively healthy. So I'm just gonna let them go and see what happens. And in this bed, I have been growing napa cabbage, which you can see here is doing so nicely. Napa cabbage is just one of those plants that attracts a ton of pests. So I really am enjoying the experience of growing this in the winter time because those pests are gone, and so it can grow without the concern of being chomped on constantly. Green onions are also a great winter garden plant. They are not the bulbing onion type, so you don't have to worry about getting the right amount of sunshine for them. These will be harvested pretty much as is, and they're a great sort of winter garden addition. Now let's take a look at what's going on with the grow bags. I recently seeded some of these. I believe this is Russian kale that I recently popped in there, and they have sprouted and are beginning to grow. And then some of these others have yet to sprout. You can see just a little baby one starting over there. One thing that doesn't need any protection in the winter is garlic. So I have a few different varieties here that I planted early December, and I've had these hanging out in the refrigerator since October because these are hard-neck garlics, so they need a good long cold period to grow well in the spring. So I've had these in the refrigerator, and hopefully that's been enough time for them. Hard-neck garlics are great for two reasons. One, they generally have a more pungent garlic flavor, which I love. And then also they grow garlic scapes, which are a delicious sort of shoot that will come, I believe, in late spring. In this bag, I have some white Japanese turnips. I planted these in September or October, and they are growing in nicely. A bunch of them are ready to pull. You generally want to pull these somewhat young. You can let them size up, and they have a beautiful sweetness, especially in the winter cold. Kale is a great thing to grow in the winter garden, and it's very cold hardy. I have some lacinato kale here, as well as another broccoli plant. And then back here, I actually have some poppies. I was hoping to get a bloom. I started these in August, a really long time ago, and I was hoping to get a bloom in the fall, but they've just kind of been growing, and I guess hopefully they'll flower maybe in springtime. They look a lot like lettuce. And then back here, we have some carrots. So I have multiple successions of carrots. They just get so sweet and delicious in the winter time because the sugars develop as a defense mechanism against the frost. It's not that they just can grow in the winter. I think it's the best time to grow carrots. Here's a quick list of all the different plants I have growing in my winter garden right now. A lot of gardeners choose to take the winter off, and I fully get the idea of needing a break. I just really love cool weather vegetables the most. Like, I love all the brassicas and leafy greens, and so for me, if I weren't gardening through the winter, I feel like I would just really be missing out on a lot of the good stuff. That said, growing through the winter has its own challenges. The most difficult challenge to face is just the lack of sunlight. Yes, I'm growing things through the winter, but it takes like 3 times as long. I think the key to be successful in winter gardening is to start the plants early enough so that they are reaching their productivity right around when it really starts to get cold, and getting that timing right is really key and so specific to your particular yard. I'm always amazed that even people who also live in DC have such different microclimates. So if you have a tall fence, for example, and a tighter space and an area that is more protected, people are able to grow their brassicas without any frost protection or anything like that. In the meantime, I've got like double layers of protection, and there still is some frost damage on some of the leaves, but overall they're still doing great. A lot of this first season is just getting to understand and getting to know how those little microclimates work in my backyard. One of the key things that for me I'm noting is that I really need to start my winter crops in August while it's still really hot, and it's okay for them in the beginning to be that warm. What's key is the temperature around their maturity periods. You don't want to be eating carrots that are maturing in July and August per se, but it's still a good time to start them because they take so long And the carrots that I started in August are now very, very slowly maturing. And some of them have been kind of mature and I've just let them hang out. It's kind of like hitting the pause button on them. And that's one of the nice things about growing in the wintertime, because you don't have to worry if you miss that harvest window. It really stretches it out. So especially for something like broccoli, when it gets warmer and you don't catch it at the right time, it can start to flower, it can start to really kind of spread out and get past its prime in a matter of a day or two. Whereas in the winter, you've got like weeks and you don't have to worry about it. So that's one thing I really like. So for me, I know that I will always have a garden going on in the winter just so I can enjoy those brassicas and those root vegetables. And honestly, it's the best time to grow things like carrots because they really taste so much sweeter. I totally get wanting to take a break. At the same time, I so highly recommend winter gardening. It's so low maintenance, it's so low pressure. It does feel like a little bit of a break. You don't have to be out there every single day, you know, dealing with weeds and pests. So it's just a slower pace and for me, totally manageable. Thanks so much for joining me on a walkthrough of my winter garden. And if nothing else, if you're not winter gardening, I hope that I've convinced you to at least sow some carrot seeds. You won't be sorry. Thanks so much for watching and see you next time.
What you doing, little girl? You having trouble?